Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Fantasy Squad podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Parker, joined here by my co hosts, Jasani and Brandon. And we're back at it again for round two of our offseason fantasy football talk. Last episode, we ranked our fantasy football dynasty league quarterbacks. And recently, there have been a little bit of a shakeup in the quarterback world. We have the biggest news. Aaron Rodgers didn't go to the Broncos and stayed in Green Bay. And the biggest stir news, Russell Wilson has gone to the Denver Broncos. So if you guys want to talk about that real quick, what are your immediate fantasy football thoughts? And who are winners, losers, risers, fallers? I mean, we have probably obvious answer to those, but let me start us off, Jasani. What are some of your thoughts about how that move affects the fantasy football world?
I think players like Devontae, Judy, and maybe even like Cortland, but definitely got to rise in their stock. Some players that fell, obviously, we have to be Noah Fant. He's in Seattle, no quarterback. I just don't see how he can really produce there with Geno Smith or Drew Lock. But yeah, Jerry Judy should make a big step forward this year. He's been in quarterback hell pretty much ever since he got into the league. So I'm sure he's very happy to have a Hall of Fame like Russ on his team.
In my opinion, I don't really think like Noah Fant's like value really drops because like he had Drew Lock kind of already. I think he's kind of like in the same place. I don't really think he goes up by any means, but I don't really think he really drops for me. What do you think, Jalen?
I think that going to the offense that Pete Carroll wants to run will affect him more because I think they're about to just be a run-first team, right?
With Chris Carson
for 4 games, right? But like
with Penny.
Yeah, with Penny. Penny was. I feel like they should bring him back and might as well just commit to being a run-first team. I mean, you get like. You really want to let Drew Lock sling it when you're playing the Cardinals, Niners, and Rams twice a year?
Yeah, they're going to go from not wrestling it to
or maybe they're trying to get into the Bryce Young sweepstakes, so they're going to do that. Personally, I'm thinking they're taking a quarterback this year. I mean, with that Denver pick, this might be your best chance unless you think you're going to be first overall pick bad next year. They might. I wouldn't put it past with them with what I'm seeing at this point, but I don't know. I just think I guess I could understand you saying it's a lateral move for Noah Fant. I just feel like it's I don't know. I just don't trust him now.
I was never really that big on Noah Fant in the beginning, so that's why I'm kind of indifferent towards the move because I don't know. I was never that high on him anyways because Drew Lock was his quarterback, so
yeah,
same case, worst case scenario, Drew Lock will still be his quarterback going into next year. So it really nothing changes to me other than I guess you could argue that the offense could take away from him, but I mean maybe because they had to essentially pay up to get Fant in this situation, maybe they'll try and force him the ball because he was expensive.
It cost them a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, so maybe they'll feed him the ball a little bit, but yeah. In terms of Russ going to the Broncos, I think that's obviously huge. I think everyone's value there kind of goes up, and the mystery box factor. I think everyone's draft value is gonna go crazy on a lot of those guys. So I think we do need to kind of be careful when it comes to drafting them and stuff because you don't really know who's going to be the number one option that Russ is going to really like, and everyone's going to assume it's going to be Judy, but it could be Cortland, right? Would you be that surprised?
Or Tim Patrick.
Yeah, or like Tim, right? Would you be that surprised if those are the guys that he happens to mind meld with? So I'm not going to be overdrafting any of these guys. I would like to take a shot on one of them if the price is right, obviously, but yeah, I'm not going to be shooting for the stars and taking Judy in the third round.
Oh, instant.
That was going to reach though.
Someone is going to reach.
No, for sure. And I think that excitement is just it's gonna be like a rocket ship all off season.
I mean, it'll be interesting.
I'll let the suckers get sucked.
I think I think the safest riser in all of this is Javonte, because now I think
Melvin stays.
Well, now that they're taking on Russ's contract, which eats into a decent amount of their cap, they're talking about bringing Von Miller and Bobby Wagner, and if they do that, no money left. I do also think, right, that when you're taking a team this talented, you do have to worry about the fact that, like, if they have their defense was top 3 last year, now they're going to have a good old line, multiple weapons in the passing game, and a good running game. Like, they're not going to be throwing the ball 50 times a game and allowing everyone to eat, right? It might be like how it was with Lockett and DK, where some games like Lockett would go crazy and have, 12 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, and DK would have like 3 balls for 60 yards or something like that, That's on it. So I think the safest option in all of this is Javonte, right? If they have an elite defense and an offense that can get leads now and let their defense play with a lead and just tee off on quarterbacks, which if they bring in a guy like Von Miller, they'll be able to do. And Javonte stays as the only workhorse back. Shoot.
Yeah, and typically, like in the past, Russ hasn't really supported like 3 receiving like fantasy options, right? So it's like one of them probably isn't going to return on the value of those 3 guys, and I don't know. It's a little bit of a mystery box up in the air right now, in my opinion. I don't think it's as like blatant, as obvious as a lot of people are hoping.
I mean, Cortland's the one who's made the Pro Bowl out of all those guys, right? So in theory, he's the best, but Judy also has the hype.
He is coming off an ACL injury. He didn't really play well last year, but I mean, that's locked. And Teddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all got outplayed by Tim Patrick. That's the really
They did.
So, Tim Patrick might be that dude.
Do immediately both Broncos wide receivers move over both Seahawks wide receivers?
I'll probably still take DK over them, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of Lockett.
In the draft, I don't know if I'm going to be taking a shot on any of the Seahawks wide receivers.
Yeah, I'll avoid that.
In Dynasty,
DK did fine with Geno.
Huh?
DK did fine with Geno.
Yeah.
If someone wants to buy into, hey, he might see 12 targets a game because they're going to be getting blown out and just like
no defense.
Somebody will buy into that. It won't be me because every time I buy into stuff like that, I get burned. So then talking about, the obvious risers and fallers from that one. So let's talk about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers staying. You guys see this dude's name?
No, I don't see anything.
How do we ban this man?
Oh. Bro, what?
So that completely threw my train of thought off. Crap.
Packers.
Yeah, Packers. So they're franchise tagging Adams. He's probably going to be pissed about this, I would assume. I'm assuming he'll play, though, right?
Who?
Devontae. Because he's getting franchised.
I mean, he got to play with his quarterback.
Yeah. At least if I get franchised with Jordan
Love. Yeah, true. But so Rodgers' 4-year contract, does this move him up your board at all, or change how you feel about him in Dynasty? Since there was the talks he might retire, he might go to a different team. Does this kind of just keep him in the same spot where you see him?
Yeah, I think it kind of like solidifies him in that spot because like I don't really think you could project him to continue if he's already been talking about retirement. So like you kind of have a four-year window with Rodgers right now. So I think putting him, in the top 12, but near the back end of the top 12, is a fair spot to keep him.
Okay. And I know we ended last episode with Trevor at 12, with the caveat of having Russ take over his spot if the Jaguars troll. Does the trade to the Broncos solidify Russ in the top, make him an immediate move up candidate?
Yeah, I think it has to.
Yes, I think so too.
Does he move above? So we went Trevor 12, Rodgers 11, Hurts 10. Does he move ahead of all three of those guys to you?
I mean, I'll personally take him over Hurts. So that's just me.
I would push him all the way up there to number 10. What do you think? I mean, given like his security there, the team around him, like they gave up so much that he's gonna have to be there. I mean, they expect him to be there playing for a good amount of time at least. So
that is true. That is
and
true.
Whereas the Eagles with Hurts, I mean, we're already hearing of them like, oh, maybe they'll draft another QB. So it's like I don't know how long you could roll the dice with Hurts in like the next 3 or 4 years. Like how long will he?
Yeah, it is kind of like weird, right? They just came out like it's a day or two ago. Sirianni was like, "Oh, Jalen Hurts is obviously a guy at quarterback. Like he's the franchise guy." And then you hear they made an offer for Deshaun, or not Deshaun, for Russ, and Russ was like, "Heck no."
Yeah. So.
But it also does seem like everyone's kind of crapping on the Seahawks haul, but it is like everyone knew in this trade that was the only team Russ would go to. It's been like reported, right? He only signed off on going to Denver. He didn't want to go to any other team. So it's like, if I know that and I'm the Denver GM, I'm like, he only wants to come here. You better take this Noah Fant and Drew Lock.
But they got a lot of draft picks, so we'll see what they can do with that.
Yeah, they can draft another running back.
Yeah, they probably should.
Now we can dive into our tight end rankings, right? So that is today's rankings for the show is our dynasty tight ends. I think we're all going to have the same number one, right? We'll just go ahead and say, do you all have Kyle Pitts as your number one ranked tight end in Dynasty League?
Rise up. Falcons number one.
Yeah, they got the number one dynasty tight end. They're doing something right. So hitting on it, what makes Pitts the obvious number one to you guys?
22, made a Pro Bowl his first year, already had 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
it's pretty much like his ceiling is like through the fucking roof.
His age, his situation, his draft pedigree, it all adds up, and like what he's already done. So like he's already shown that he can do it in this league. Who else is there to take targets away from him? He might get 300 targets this year. I mean, Matt Ryan's a decent QB. Their defense is below average. They're going to be chucking the ball, and who are they going to be chucking it to?
Average.
So, and I mean, he basically plays wide receiver. He doesn't even block or do anything else that tight ends do. So you basically get a third wide receiver on your team. And you get to put it in your tight end spot.
Yeah.
Busted.
It felt like kind of like last year there were some frustrations with his usage. Like some games he wouldn't get super high targeted, but then you're like, still put up 1,000 yards, made the Pro Bowl. I think he's a rookie, right? And the big thing, right, that separated him from like almost immediately vaulting into like the higher end echelon of tight ends in fantasy football last year. He only had 2 touchdowns, I believe.
Yeah.
Which in the course of a 17-game season is very disappointing. But when you look at how many catches he had, how much yardage he had, you have to assume it's going to go up, right?
Yeah.
And the offense as a whole for the Falcons didn't really score many touchdowns.
Yeah. That is – I don't know if that part will change, though. I'll be honest. It might get worse. It was in Cordero.
Nah, Cordero's coming back.
But he has to, I feel like.
He has nowhere else to go.
I mean, but it worries me when I see a player being like, yo, I don't care about money. I want to stay here. And then they're like,
not signed yet.
Yeah, they're not signed. You're like, The Falcons, I guess, don't want him. And you're like,
He's pretty much saying I play for free.
Arthur Blank said he wants him back, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he's mentioned that.
I hope so.
That they're gonna. I mean, they need him.
Yeah, I mean, they just lost Ridley for at least next season, so you need as many. If you're going to keep Matt Ryan and say you're trying to be competitive, you might as well return your best offensive weapon from last year, right?
Yeah. So he has everything pointing him in the direction of number one.
Yeah.
There's no question there.
So then, putting him on the list at number one. So then the next name, maybe there'd be variation here. I have Money Mark.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark Andrews.
Baltimore Bucks plays with, who y'all consider to be an elite quarterback.
You disrespect Lamar?
No.
All right. You just hit a big trust like that? You don't trust big trust?
Black quarterbacks matter, man. I root for them all, bro. I mean,
it's kind of crazy how he's producing in a run first offense like that, though.
He is the run first.
He easily out targeted all their wide receivers, and what makes it really crazy is he put up monster games with Huntley too, right?
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter who was behind center. That man, he was just a matchup nightmare, and whoever they had throwing the ball knew throw to 89, right?
Yeah.
And
he's also 26 years old, so he's also like still on the younger side of things. Obvious alpha of the receiving core here, and he has a young QB with him. Their defense is sus, so they will be throwing, I guess. But yeah, I think number two is pretty obvious for Mark Andrews.
Would you have any concerns at all about the fact that if next year their whole team comes back healthy, the defense is better, the running backs are back, the O-line is better, that they might revert back to being – because like this year they had to air the ball out a lot, right? Because, I mean, we saw Hollywood Brown put up big games. We saw Bateman look like he might be a future star in the making. And this is all in line with Mark Andrews absolutely dominating. Are you worried about the fact that the volume of passing attempts could decrease by a fair amount next season?
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, when it do pass, they should throw it to him. So that's my thing. And he's like a red zone target, and he's like Lamar's like favorite target also. So it's just there's a lot more positives and pros and cons to Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I think he's the clear-cut number one receiving option on this team. And for whatever reasons, all three of the QBs liked him a lot and would hone in on them. So I'm going with that.
I agree. Okay, so then next game name, and this is where things might start to diverge. Do you have Kittle or Kelsey? I have Kittle.
I have Kittle.
I got Darren Waller.
Well, you have the wrong answer here, Brandon. Defend yourself.
Well, the reason why not Kittle is because of like the few games that we did see Kittle play with Trey Lance, who I'm assuming is going to be the QB there. Kittle was kind of not used at all. It wasn't even like he was like had 4 to 5 targets. It was like 2 to 0 targets. So I'm not entirely sold on his value, his future value with Trey Lance at the helm, like how this offense is going to look. Obviously, they're going to use him a lot. It's Kyle Shanahan, and he's like their second best option on offense. So they're going to get creative in using him. But I'm not entirely sold that he's going to be this top 3 guy until I see it with Trey Lance, and we haven't seen it yet. Darren Waller, on the other hand, he is a year young. He's a year older than Kittle, so they're kind of the same age. He has Derek Carr, so a decent QB. I think he's pretty solidified there as well. Same with Kittle. But I just kind of trust with what they have going around with their ecosystem that Darren Waller will be utilized heavily in this offense, whether it be in the middle of the field, red zone, all of the above. Whereas Kittle, I'm not entirely convinced that it's going to run through him, whether it's the run game for the 49ers, Debo for the 49ers, or maybe even getting Ayuk and Trey Lance's legs involved. I'm putting my eggs on Waller next year over Kittle, I think. Defend Kittle.
I mean, I just think, right, that what we saw was a raw rookie who rarely threw the ball in college that, like, wasn't supposed to be playing, having to, like, play. I would assume that they would say, you know, we can't win a championship with our quarterback just running the ball. So I would assume if they have confidence to move on from Jimmy, that they have full trust in Trey Lance, like, to lead them with a good passing attack, one that might even be more dangerous than it was with Jimmy. And I mean, and the thing is, Kittle's always kind of been one of those guys who doesn't really need a ton of targets to be able to, like, produce. Like, obviously you want him to have a lot of targets, but, like, I don't know. That's kind of where I look at him as a different guy than, like, Kelsey and Waller, whereas they're guys who kind of, like, need 8 to 12 targets in order for them to crack, like, you know, 100 yards and get a touchdown or two. Whereas Kittle's one of those guys who, like, might catch 6 passes, but he'll take it for, like, 130 yards. He's always been a little bit averse to getting the touchdowns, which is, I think, always kind of, like, stop him from being, like, the number one tight end. But I would also just trust Kyle Shanahan in his mind to be like, we have too good of a football player for him not to be seen. Like, he's the best player on the 49ers team, in my opinion. Yeah, no, that's a debate for later. You got Big Trent and Bosa and all those guys. But I just think that, like, you know, Shanahan, if he's that guy, he shouldn't be an idiot and be like, we're just going to run the ball 40 times a game. And we traded up to for a quarterback at 3 when we could have just signed Tyrod or Cam to do the same thing.
Yeah, but Cam's not doing the same thing. Tyrod definitely not doing the same thing. So, like,
great for Brett Hundley at that point. I don't know. I feel like it would be kind of troll if they traded up to 3 for, like, just a quarterback purely because he's athletic and they're like, now our run game is going to be deadly.
Well, he's athletic and he has a cannon, but, like,
yeah, it's just not that.
Those things don't correlate to tight end to me, you know, like, in my opinion, like, and George Kittle on this offense has so many other roles, right? He's, like, very valuable blocker. He's a very valuable this. They have a number 1 alpha wide receiver. And those are things that I don't see on Oakland. And I mean, unless they draft an alpha wide receiver, I don't see that changing anytime soon. They don't even have I don't know if they'll even have a receiving back going into next year. So I just think Darren Waller's targets are a little bit safer. So that's why I have him there.
You're forgetting about Hunter Renfrow, man. Derek Carr's favorite player now. You know, he doesn't mess with Darren Waller like that anymore.
I know Josh McDaniels likes to scheme up a lot of tight end stuff. So that's why I'm excited for him. Whereas, I mean,
you're putting your
so many
McDaniels, Brandon McDaniels.
There's so many
as a head coach,
I mean, this
not
is
a coordinator.
Leaders we're talking about. This is Darren Waller on a team of Hunter Renfrow as the other option.
Disrespect of Hunter.
Disrespect. Do you consider Hunter an alpha?
Yeah. Hunter might be the next Cooper Kupp. You never know. Never know.
Yeah, sipping too much wine over there.
No,
just admit, man, Kittle, he's that dude, man. You got to put your trust in.
If you guys want to put Kittle here, that's fine. I mean, I don't have any qualms with that. I'm just saying.
So, in your mind,
I'll take a free Waller.
Is there no argument for Kelsey over Waller?
I mean, maybe in the next, if you want to have your outlook be in the next 2 years, yeah. But if you're looking like next 3 to 4 years, I would much rather have the 28-year-old over the 32-year-old, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I can't remember the last time Kelsey wasn't a top 5 tight end.
I think he'll be a top 2 tight end going in the next 2 years. But then, I mean, how many 36-year-old tight ends have we ever seen? Like,
we've seen Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez, you know, all out for a while.
It's like, who would you rather have, like in like three or 4 years, like a 32-year-old Darren Waller or a 36-year-old Kelsey.
Hey, this 32-year-old Darren Waller's been hurt more than the 33-year-old, or the 29-year-old Darren Waller's been hurt more than the Kelsey has already.
I mean, you kind of say the same thing about the 27-year-old Kittle.
Kittle's a GOAT tight end, bro.
Kittle played through
injuries. We got factored injuries.
Kittle was hurt all last year and played through it, man. He's a warrior.
Yeah, he's a warrior. He's first one in, last guy out.
I will say, with Jimmy G did pepper him with targets. Like near the end, there was games where Kittle was getting like 12 to 14 targets, and I loved it because I had Kittle on my team. And it was amazing.
He's just a beast, right? That's just all.
And I just don't see that continuing to next season.
Everybody says the best friend for a young quarterback is the tight end.
It wasn't with Trey Lance this last year.
I mean, think about it this way, right? If Mark Andrews can produce with Lamar, if Trey Lance is just a crappy Lamar, I mean, Kittle should be at worse a crappy Mark Andrews, right? Right?
I don't know if A equals B in that situation.
It doesn't have to equal B, but C's not too bad either. You know what I mean?
We could put George Kittle here, but I mean, if we look at his stats with Trey Lance right now, I think it's like 3 fantasy points over 4 games.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's more because Trey Lance was not supposed to be playing. Because how many times did they run Trey Lance? Did he average about 14 to 15 runs a game?
I mean,
even when he dropped back, he just ran on his own.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be running that much next year.
What if he sucks next year too?
Oh,
and they do just run it, and Kittle's just a blocker because he's their second.
I mean, if Trey Lance is not that guy, Kyle Shanahan's gonna get fired. So. He's gonna make him that
Trey Lance
guy.
just like there is the possibility that Trey Lance sucks, right? That there is that possibility. I'll agree with you. I'll say Waller is safer. I will always say that the ceiling that Kittle possesses is pretty much unmatched by any tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
That's just because in terms of being an actual tight end, he's the best. And I would say his athleticism is almost on par with Waller's, although Waller is literally a wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I trust Kittle to be able to produce without, because I understand, right? I have Kittle in the dynasty league, right? And there were times where I'd be like, man, they just don't want to use this man. Man, they don't want to give him the ball. They just want to run it. But that might happen. But he still would randomly pop and give you those games where you're like, wow, Kittle absolutely completely carried me this week, right? So
it's more like
Elsier.
I have too much faith in the Josh McDaniels offense utilizing a tight end like crazy.
He might. What if he's Jonnu?
What if he's Hunter Henry and Jonnu combined?
That's like the tight end 8 right there.
That's like
what if after a year McDaniels gets fired again?
Nah.
This is great.
Nah. That happens once, it happens twice.
He won't get fired. He'll just run away. He'll just come back.
So this takes us back. Kelsey or Waller? I would take 2 years of Kelsey. I will take 2 years of Kelsey playing with Patrick Mahomes over 3 or 4 years of Darren Waller playing with.
Yeah, man. The points that Kelsey produces is unreal. It's just he can carry your team.
Because I understand, Brandon, your line of thought is it wasn't too long ago, right, that Darren Waller was in some people's mind he was the tight end 1.
Yeah. And I think just coming with how hard it is to replace your tight end, I don't really want to have an aging tight end that quick because then you have 2 years to find a replacement tight end, which is after those 2 years you might be running with Jonnu in a dynasty league, I'd much rather just roll out with a tight end for 5 or 6 years. So that would be my goal if I was drafting right now in a dynasty league. I would not want a guy that's 2 years in, 2 years out. Unless it's a QB, I would be willing to draft an old QB because, young QBs come up all the time. But tight ends, I mean, we get Pitts. We got Kyle Pitts.
Okay, but at what point does the number outweigh the age? Like the points they produce outweigh the
when they get with it. When I think the number outweighs what you're getting out of it is when the 3 to 4 year outlook starts looking like they could retire. Kind of like Aaron Rodgers at being like 38 years old. Like he will give you 4 years of good stuff, but like, can you guarantee that 5th year? Right now, you can't because he's already been contemplating retirement. Kelsey, I mean, he will give you 2 to 3 years of good stuff, but like, can you guarantee the 4th year? I really can't. I mean, and you really can't do that with Waller either because he is also up there in age. I just think he's overall, I don't know, the future outlook. I would much rather have 3 to 4 years over like 2 because he's 32 years old. Gronkowski looks like an old grandpa out there, and he's also 32 years old.
Did Kelsey look like an old grandpa out there?
I mean,
Kelsey like a grandpa against the Bills.
It only takes 1 year for them to start looking like an old grandpa before they're gramps. And I mean, do you want to be caught holding that bag? Having I mean, I would say this in his defense. His down year was this last year, right? He had a pretty down year for Kelsey, and he ended up like tight end too. So like he is like a 1 to 2 tight end for the next 2 years. But if you don't win your dynasty league in those next 2 years, you're going to be on the tight end hunt because you're probably going to have nothing. It's going to be tough.
That's what we're trying to do, though. We're trying to win. It's all about winning, baby.
You can win with Waller as your tight end if you have a solid team. I think you still win with and you can stay competitive for longer.
Yeah. Like the drop off between Kelsey and Waller isn't like the drop off between Kelsey and some of the other names. So you know what I mean. And it's like Waller has the ability still to finish as a tight end 1. I have more question marks around Waller, in my opinion, than I do around Kelsey.
So where do the question marks for you come from for Waller? Is it injury?
New offense, because McDaniels in the past has liked talented tight ends, but I don't know if does he like him more than Gruden liked him?
He might. He might be better at calling an offense and like utilizing a tight end. Because like Gruden was kind of clowning. He used it's very obvious what Gruden was calling it. With how he used Darren Waller all the way through the middle of the field, and then right when he got to the red zone, it was not Darren Waller. I think we'll get a little bit more creativity out of the tight ends. And he wants to use 2 tight end sets, and you think he's not going to use Darren Waller like a shit ton?
Yeah, but Darren Waller lined up at tight end isn't where Darren Waller does his damage from.
I mean, he is the wide receiver 1 on that team as well. Who's better than him at wide receiver other than Hunter Renfrow?
Henry. Whoa, my bad. Then you got Brian Edwards.
Brian Edwards. Yeah, like look him up. See what
I dropped that man in Dynasty. I'll be honest. But no, I understand what you're saying. I don't think like it's one of those things. It all just shapes down to personal preferences. I just put more trust in the guy playing an Andy Reid offense with Mahomes than because it's a projection, right? But it's like Waller is good. There's no way that he's not, in my mind, like if he finishes outside of the top 5 tight ends at any point over the next 3 to 4 seasons, then something had to go wrong, right?
I just want to reiterate that it's like I do think that Kelsey will score more points.
Yeah, you just think he'll just play longer. And
I
understand.
The only difference is age, and the age
I understand that.
Yeah, it's like it's a 4-year difference. So like to me, that's like a big enough gap.
But like when you kind of look at it, right? Like looking at it last year, right? Waller had the big game 1. Yeah. And then he was kind of hovering around 8 to 11 points the rest of the games. And he only had 2 20-point games the whole season. Obviously, he did miss a chunk of the season. And that's not even talking about all the stuff that's going on with the Raiders. But even that, with that being said, your tight end giving you a consistent double digits, even if it's low end double digits, you'll still be like okay with. So, but it's not like he was a world beater last year. It's not like he was slightly disappointing relative to what you expected, even like last year. And now we're banking on a lot of stuff changing. I feel like they have to even add more weapons to that room, to be honest. I don't think.
Yeah.
But like the talent is obviously there and the age. I understand what you're saying. Like it kind of just depends on how you feel about the age is ultimately what I think is the deciding factor here. I would personally just rather take Kelsey and know I'm getting one of the top 2 tight ends, like guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, with like for Kelsey, man, it's like. I mean, it's like we haven't seen him hurt really. I think he's played almost every game. Like Jalen said, he's in a great offense with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And it's like the practices aren't that intense. Dudes are staying in the game for longer and longer. So I just don't know like how much of a drop off we're gonna see once he gets older. I mean, I don't think he's gonna be looking like a version of Big Ben, just limping around the field, getting like 1 target a game. You know.
Yeah, he just is by far the oldest tight end.
Yeah.
Like no other tight end is in their 30s on my top 12 list. The closest guy is like 28 or 29.
Yeah, Waller's 29.
Yeah, okay, Waller's 29. So maybe the age is a little bit
He'll
different.
turn 30 during the season.
He's the oldest, but out of all the tight ends, he's done the best. So.
And my thought is just like tight end, unless you play like Gronk, I'm not really too worried about those guys. Like if you put about how like bad they'll really age, you know, especially when like, I mean, shoot, I don't know. That's just my personal thoughts, but.
All right, yeah, we could put Kelsey there at 4. That's fine.
So now, how do you feel about putting T.J. Hawkinson at 5 instead? I'm kidding. Waller has to be the next name.
I can't put T.J. Hawkinson that high.
I can't allow that one.
No, I can't allow that one.
So now we're looking at 6. Who do you guys have at 6?
I got Hawkinson right behind Waller.
Yeah, okay. I would have Hawkinson here as well.
I would have Hawkinson here as well. No, nobody jumps out off the screen to y'all to put over Hawkinson.
No.
I mean, no. I was gonna say like you could maybe argue like taking a shot on a guy like Dawson Knox, who's like kind of the same age as him and like has a pretty good. He has a better QB surrounding him. If his target share and red zone share can stay the same, like he has a pretty solid future. But and if you don't want to be connected to Jared Goff, I might take the shot because he'd be cheaper in the draft. Be, in my opinion, the same person.
Yeah, see, I agree. I mean, I have Dawson Knox right behind Hawkinson. I mean, I just think his age, he's only 25. He's in a great offense in the Bills. The division is cupcake. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's just like, yeah, he scored 9 touchdowns last year. So, I mean, you would have to think like he should go up. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is coming back. I don't think so. So it's just Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and him. But yeah, I think Hawkinson's floor is a lot better than Dawson Knox. And in theory, his ceiling should be higher because I don't think Jared Goff is the future there. So eventually this should change. But yeah, I think Dawson Knox should be right behind him in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've got her next.
All right, defend yourself.
I had Dawson Knox last year, and when he catches touchdowns, he produced. When he didn't catch touchdowns, he absolutely burned me. That's pretty much how the year went. He didn't see enough targets to where he consistently was getting below 5 points, and then he would catch a touchdown or two and give you 20 points. And I don't know, if you're going to put him over a guy like Goddard, who I think kind of is the number 1 in the Eagles passing attack, I think you're projecting an increase that I'm not exactly sure is a safe bet to make necessarily.
For Dawson Knox?
Yeah, I think you're projecting an increase in more targets and usage that I don't necessarily know if it's actually there.
They'll have some vacated targets with Emmanuel Sanders and possibly Cole Beasley being released.
Yeah, but then my thought process is also both of those guys were playing over Gabriel Davis most of the season until the playoffs when they started using Gabriel Davis more and he went off.
Yeah, but I don't know if Gabriel Davis is going to step in and just take all of those targets.
Yeah, that might just be that might just be like a matchup.
Because they also had there's also a few games at the end of the year where who is it? Isaiah McKenzie. He also went for 200 yards against the Patriots in week 16 and stuff. So it's I'm not convinced that they really know who their wide receiver 2 is. I like to think it's Gabriel Davis, and I think they're excited for him. But in my opinion, I think Dawson Knox is the safer wide receiver option behind. I would say he's the number 2 option behind Diggs on that team.
Yeah, see, I don't know about that. Because then I hear about them being interested in bringing in more weapons.
Bringing in who?
More weapons just in general in the passing attack.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. That's why I'm not convinced that they like their receivers that much because all I've heard is that they might be bringing in more wide receiver options. So,
but
yeah,
that's just my personal thought. Is I had him last year and it was he didn't see enough target. I would trot him out because it's the tight end position and it's so shallow. I would feel more comfortable trotting out a guy like Goddard, who I would feel is kind of yeah, he's not in the best offense, but he's at least the established number 1 in that offense, it feels like. And they can get him the ball. Whereas, yeah, I get Knox is younger, plays with a better tight end and in a better offense. But like I said, I had him in if he didn't score touchdowns, he was literally giving you less than 4 or 5 points. There was a lot of 2 and 3s and 4s in there, and I was like, man. Now maybe it would be different if he played the whole season, right? That I will say that probably did affect, right? Because it did feel like he was heating up a little bit, and then he got hurt, and then came back, and he really wasn't the same, especially with a hand injury. But that's just my personal thoughts. If you guys want to put Knox here, that's fine. I'd understand it.
No, it's not really something that I would really fight tooth and nail in because I don't mind Dallas Goedert either. It does seem like the Eagles are pretty committed to Dallas Goedert, which is I would put more points I would give more stock to the Eagles being more committed to Dallas Goedert, obviously, than the Bills are to Dawson Knox. And I don't know. I wouldn't mind. Sonny, what do you think?
I mean, I like Dallas Goedert. It's just also I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like for the Eagles in a couple of years. I don't know if they're committed to Hurts or it's going to be a whole new guy. Also, don't know if how they're going to feel about the coach in a couple of years. The Eagles just is such a wishy-washy franchise. And Dawson Knox is 2 years younger than Dallas Goedert. And like I said, he's in a better conference, better team. So I just think his upside should be higher than Dallas Goedert.
It's more like his ecosystem is just better. You just rather have more shares of a Bills offense than
I just think the opportunity should be. I mean, I get Dallas Goedert should be targeted more. But I think Dawson Knox, I just think the difference is the quarterback. I mean, he can put the ball in places that Jalen Hurts just can't. So that should mean better targets or more red zone opportunities just for just going up and down the field. So that's why Dawson Knox ahead of Dallas Goedert just because of their offense he's in. I think Dallas Goedert is a better tight end, obviously as a player, but I think Dawson Knox's value should increase in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I mean, we can put Knox there. I'm not drafting that man. I'll tell you that.
You're not taking the shot?
No.
That's because he burns you.
I just don't see it. I think you guys are seeing it getting better. I just don't.
I feel like he's earned his spot on that team and kind of his place, whereas the wide receiver 2s on that team haven't necessarily earned that spot yet. And I just expect that that Josh Allen good quarterback playing to Dawson Knox, that connection of good quality football players.
I think that matters more for wide receivers than it does for tight ends. In all
You think
honesty.
so?
Yeah, I mean, tight end, like, it's not like you need to be some deadly act. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has made Kittle the tight end one. Kittle was producing. You know what I mean? I think it's like a little different for tight ends because the part of the field they typically play to is easier for every quarterback to get them the ball. That's just my thought. They don't run as deep routes. Like, they run to the middle of the field usually. Like, that's the easiest part of the field to throw. I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of like they're always just the safer options because of the nature of their position, I think. But
yeah, and I think that kind of goes – that might be like even more in favor of like trying to be with Josh Allen because like with his legs he could extend a lot of plays and like he needs to have that guy in the middle of the field that's open. That's kind of what Dawson Knox can be. And I like I said, I'm just not sold that they have their wide receiver 2 in that offense. I mean, I guess you could say that same argument with the Eagles. They don't really have a wide receiver 2 either. He kind of is Dawson Knox. So to me, it's you're splitting hairs here.
it's either or.
I would, in my opinion, in all drafts, I would be shooting for the guys above this tier because these guys are just a little too hit or miss for me. And at this level, like if you're going to be drafting, I mean, these are like the last guys I would take.
These are guys that you'll take if they drop to a point where you're like, okay, like I need a tight end and this guy is still there. I might as well.
But after these 2 guys that we just mentioned, you might as well just take your last pick, like right before your kicker. You might as well just take a shot on a tight end because these guys are all kind of like. I mean,
coin flips.
Yeah, I'll put Knox at 7 just because he's younger. Does it worry you at all about the fact though that this is just a random thought that like Dallas Goedert is locked in with the Eagles and Knox isn't with his team? Would you have any worries about Knox leaving the team?
Yeah. I that was kind of like where I was kind of getting reserved on my Knox take, whereas like the Eagles are definitely more committed to Goddard, whereas you don't really know what Knox will be. I assume they will keep him around, but
it's just I understand. But yeah, we'll put Knox at 7, Goddard at 8, and now is when it's just like GG, you missed out.
Find that guy that might catch a touchdown.
I hope that RB3 or wide receiver 3 you got is really worth it because you're not getting the tight end 1.
So for me, the next guy is Pat Freiermuth, actually.
Yeah, it'd be Freiermuth.
That's my next guy too. Just because he's 23.
Yeah, he's 20. He's a rookie. I mean, and you can only assume that they will find a quarterback. Hopefully, that's his biggest drawback is you don't know damn clue who's throwing the ball. And right now,
how the offense is gonna look.
Yeah, if it's anyone in that room, you don't want to touch it. And the fact that they have, I mean, at the moment they have 3 like stud wide receiver options that are all young. So, and a running back. So there's just so many mouths to feed and not a QB to feed everybody.
Juju's might probably out there, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
James Washington's out of there, even though he wasn't really an option. So it'll just be what, Deontay and Claypool.
Yeah, and Najee.
You're gonna get pepper retarded.
Yeah, it kind of goes to like I remember what me and Jasani we were talking about like Broncos wide receivers last year, right? And like we were like, it can't get any worse. I think that the Steelers just experienced with Big Ben. Like in theory, it can get worse because of Rudolph and Haskins. So was Big Ben last year, right?
It could be
Big Ben was bad, but Rudolph is worse.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers, like, you know what I mean? My thought process is like what they did last year. Like Deontay was the wide receiver 8 in our dynasty league, I believe. Freiermuth looked like a future star at the position, and he was a very viable tight end option because it's just such a shallow position, right?
Yeah,
and that was with noodle arm Big Ben. I would
top 13 last year and for tight ends in our league, which is pretty good for a rookie tight end. And you just said, like, for having Noodle and Big Ben throwing to him, it's pretty decent.
You have to assume it'll get better.
Yeah.
If the Steelers are a competent organization, which I believe they are,
Yeah.
It
a good head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
they have all the capabilities to flip this around.
Mhm.
Like, it's not like it's a dysfunctional organization that doesn't know what they're doing.
They just need Deshaun over there.
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about organizations as a whole, and I was thinking the Steelers might be the best one.
For Deshaun?
No, I'm talking about just like, dude, if you go from Big Ben to Deshaun, they're just gonna be like, oh, you don't care about character at all. You had Lev Bell, AB, and Big Ben in one locker room.
Players coach.
No, I'm just saying, like, in terms of like an actual organization, like success. You know how we kind of say they're like the poverty franchise,
like okay.
Browns. I think the Steelers might be like the best organization in the NFL just over the course of their time. Because like, have they ever been bad during like our lives?
No.
Maybe like San Francisco can rival them. I think San Francisco's always been decent and good. Like Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Fran was bad at one
point. We saw the Niners get the second overall pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw them with Chip. That was down. Those are sad years. Because
that was when they were trolling though. I mean, every franchise had the down years.
But I think the Steelers have. That's where it gets. But that's
I mean, that year when Big Ben got hurt, they're trying to Rudolph.
They almost made the playoffs.
Yeah, they've always been decent though. They're always solid around.
They still went like
they were beating up on the Browns and Bengals for 20.
Yeah, it's true.
Browns poverty franchise. Bengals. I know they made the Super Bowl poverty franchise. Not glad none of the fans in here. I want all stocks of Jamar. Don't get it twisted. I'm all. All right, so we got Freiermuth at 9. So
I have after that I have Dalton Schultz. He's 25.
I can get behind putting Dalton Schultz there.
He's only 25. He's on a good offense on the Cowboys. The only problem is I don't know what his future might be because they did just franchise tag him, so he may or may not walk the next year. And Dak is not the best of quarterback. But Dak seems to really favor Dalton Schultz, and Amar is leaving, so that should fit more targets. So I think, if you're down bad for a tight end, and Dalton Schultz is there, that wouldn't be a bad pickup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
And there's no Blake Jarwin.
I was gonna say I also had Dalton Schultz here as well. The franchise tag is suspect. I mean, it is nice that they did tag him, and he's going to be a part of a high-powered offense. But you kind of wish for a contract for your tight end. But these other guys, I mean, they also aren't really. They're not that extended. So that's why I would take Dalton Schultz. I mean, last year he had a pretty crazy year, and I'd much rather be a part of the Dallas offense than a lot of the other offenses. So,
I didn't have Schultz on my list initially, and then Jasani said something to me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I got to put him on there. So I would agree. This is where I would probably put Schultz as well. You know what I mean? He produced last year. Targets opened up. I would assume that they're franchise tagging him and cutting all these other guys. They got to have some kind of future plans with him.
Yeah.
Unless they think that, they're just a tight end away for one season from winning it all. With Jerry boy.
Jerry apparently wanted to get Kyle Pitts.
Right, Jerry's wanted everybody. If they had a salary cap, the Cowboys would have the most stacked lineup you would ever see.
Oh yeah.
They would have Derrick Henry and CMC.
Out of all the ones, I definitely think Jerry cares the most about football.
That's like the Cowboys will almost never be terrible because Jerry and they draft really well too.
Which is so weird. I would think Jerry, if he's on controlling, he'd be awful at drafting. But they've been hitting almost every draft pick. It's so weird.
So yeah, I like Dalton Schultz here. So now we're at 11 and 12. I get so.
I got Gesicki next.
Gesicki.
Yeah.
I got Fanta at 11 and Gesicki at 12.
I got Fanta on my list,
I mean, he still got Drew Lock throwing to him. There's nothing has changed in my opinion. He's the same person.
Is Gerald?
He's more expensive to this team.
Is Gerald Everett still on the team?
Yeah, I could care less if Gerald Everett's on the team, but he's the one guy Drew Lock knows, bro.
Hey man, we're in this situation together.
We were talking about Gerald just a couple months ago. It might be the sleeper breakout tight end.
Bro, that was Pete Carroll's. That was Pete Carroll trolling, saying that Gerald Everett's the best receiver he's ever seen or something.
Yeah, like what was it, like the franchise free agent pickup of the year or something like that? Pete Carroll was saying something.
And this is why
I learned never trust what coaches tell you in the preseason. They're straight up lying to you.
Yeah, true. So I'm cool to put Gesicki here. My next name. This is where we're gonna diverge a little bit, but you just gotta hear me out. I got Albert O.
I don't mind Albert O at all.
I got Albert O like just outside 12. I got him at 13. I got Hunter Henry right there.
I got Hunter Henry at 13. I got Albert O at 14.
I got Hunter Henry at 12.
My only reserve to Albert O is that he might be like the fifth option on that offense, and like historically, Russ has like not really supported that many receiving options. So that's my only. I mean, but then again, like all these other dudes. I mean, Gesicki at least a top 2 guy on that offense.
Yeah, he should be the obvious 1 or 2 on the Dolphins.
Hunter Henry, maybe like he's at least a number 1 red zone option.
Hunter Henry.
My only worry about Albert in Dynasty is if he gets replaced in the next year, like once free agent comes. Because we see 2 Titans for franchises this year, Dalton Schultz and Gesicki. I mean, if they walk the next year, Denver's like, hey, we need a tight end. So it's just like he might just be a 1 year, just go for it pickup. That's my own reservation about it. I don't know what his future's going to be.
How old is he?
He's 23.
Yeah, he's young.
He has 2 more years. This was his 2nd year. He has 2 more years.
Yeah, he's young. But I'm just saying, like, just pick up someone, just like, yeah.
I mean, that's possible, but I'm just buying into the fact that he's young. When he played, he didn't play much, but he looked fairly good out there. I saw something that said he had the 4th highest target percentage for a tight end when he actually played.
Like routes run.
Yeah, he got targeted on almost a quarter of the routes he ran, and it's so if he's going to be playing more snaps and they think he's talented enough to where they don't really care. Fant was probably the best player they lost in that trade, but
he was expendable because they had
I think they thought he was expendable because they trust Albert O. I obviously it's like you said, he's for sure down the totem pole. He's 4th, 3rd maybe bet some games, right? 3rd, 4th, 5th option. But I just think that being tied to that offense, if he can gain a red zone threat role and be the middle of the field guy, hey, I think it'll have a little bit of value. And I think that's all you're kind of looking for. I mean, at the end, right? When you're looking at these guys that you're at now, it's kind of just all right,
you're just going for upside.
Yeah, I'm taking it's pure upside at that point.
I feel like then what you're saying is his ceiling is kind of like what Hunter Henry was last year already. Because he was kind of top 12 tight end purely off of touchdowns, literally nothing else.
Yeah, but it's also if he just gets targeted more, It all depends. We have zero clue what this offense is going to look like.
It's a mystery.
So like that, and that's what I'm kind of buying into. Like Hunter Henry is safer. He's also older and has an injury history, and we also don't know what the Patriots offense is going to look like next year. That's another thing. I don't know. I mean, if I hear that Bill Belichick is actually calling the plays, I have zero clue what that offense is going to look like.
All right, man. You know what's going to look like. Damien Harris running the ball 40 times.
I'm going to have to look at some Navy film from 1958 to figure out what Bill does on offense.
Yeah, it might be interesting.
If that's the case. That's some triple option. They might need to get Trey Lane. That's just my thought. Like for me, with having Albert O, it's pure upside. I'm not going to argue about it at all. Like if you guys want to put Fant here.
I mean, I think I would agree with that for redraft, but for dynasty, I think that's just. I just think he's going to get replaced pretty quickly.
He's 23.
I know he's only 23, but it's not he's 23 and they dropped in the first round, or even like have a high pick, so like they're like, okay, we kind of have to use this guy. I mean, it would not surprise me at all if just pick up a veteran tight end or whatever for Russ.
Now I have a question for you guys. This guy was picked fairly high by the team that drafted him. And he's a young buck. He's about 23 years old. How do you guys – and you could argue that he might be like the number 2 receiving option on this team. And he's tied to a quarterback that is fairly, very young and could be a pretty high prospect. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
No, when you said young, I thought you were talking about Irv Smith.
I'm talking about Cole Kmet, bro. He's 23 years old.
Oh.
Cole Kmet's one of my like other guys who's like an upside pick. I'm just taking because I was thinking about him or Albert O, and then I was like, I'm just gonna take the one playing with Russ. But you do have a point being that like it's Mooney then Kmet. He might be that sleeper tight end. If I miss out on all the guys, he probably would be that guy that I take to be like.
Because he's number 2 guy.
All the guys.
He's a number 2 guy. I mean, we haven't really seen anything from Justin Fields yet, but we have to assume that it should be better without Nagy at the helm, right?
Who's your coach?
Matt Eberflus, the Colts Steve. I think they took the Packers quarterbacks coach as their OC, so he could be a Tunyon with more targets.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I have the 12th pick.
I mean, I have Kmet after Albert. I have Henry, Albert, then Cole Kmet, and then Noah. I'm not sipping Noah at all.
The Noah, yes, Noah T. Noah Fanta.
Oh man, I think the Seahawks have to be the Dubs, man.
Okay, I just looked this up, right? So it says here. He played less than half the snaps, but he averaged 10 points per 100 snaps, which was about how many points Noah Fant put up. I don't know.
You're saying Cole Kmet put up like per game like as many points as.
No, this is Albert O.
Oh.
So Albert was pretty much just as good as Noah. He just didn't get the opportunities as Noah.
Yeah, now he.
But that makes you think like why wasn't in the game? I mean, obviously Noah was better
because they drafted Cole in the first round. If you can't
the draft pedigree. They had it.
I mean, you can run 2 tight ends.
Not with Drew Lock, bro. They don't want to confuse this man.
I like how Vic Fangio kept it real. He was like, I mean, how you expect to win a division? I have Teddy.
He knew he was getting fired. Why couldn't you win? These other teams got Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr. It's like, dude, you're right.
I mean, everybody knows it, man. Everybody knows. It's like the moment he got fired, they got Russ. That's so
that division's nasty, bro. Why is Russ like playing nasty divisions?
Yeah, dude, Russ like the challenge, man. I swear. He was like, oh, it's too easy over here.
Bro, that was what Skip was like. He was like, Russ said he wants the challenge. Aaron Rodgers said he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Roger got the easiest division, man. That division's cupcake.
So at 12, I'm cool with any combo of Fant, Albert O, or Komet.
Yeah.
I'll go with Albert O, just because of Russ.
I'm going Komet, bro. Jalen, you're the deciding factor.
You know what position Komet finished last year?
Bro,
he wasn't even like top 15.
that doesn't mean anything to me, man.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll say it this way. I think.
Let me
Justin Fields even that good with Thor.
It's one of those things. I think Komet has easier path to getting points, but if things align for Albert, he would easily outscore Komet. And that's kind of the way I would look at it, right? Like, would you be surprised if they both are like guys who just like catch 3 or 4 passes a game, maybe crack like 40 to 50 yards and score a touchdown or 2 every couple of games?
I wouldn't be surprised if both these dudes suck next year.
That's kind of where I'm at. Is like they both could be trash.
I would not put
Who would have thought? Who would have thought the number 4 and a dude playing with Justin Fields, no O-line, and we don't know what there is. So I'm still gonna say Albert O though. You know what I'm saying?
All right, to put Albert O on the list, he cracked top 12.
That's
Albert O finished that last year with being behind the.
Oh, he probably was the tight end 44 by I bet.
30, bro.
Tight end 30.
29.
We're gonna look back at this next year when the season's over. I'm like, man, Albert.
Yeah, when Cole Komet's tight end 7 on the year, and Albert O is like.
Look, it's not like I'm out here staking my life on Albert O. I said,
he takes the 12 cut in.
Well, at this point, bro, if you're taking a tight end at 12 thinking he has a chance to finish as a top 5 tight end, I got news for you, my brother.
Hey, I mean, Dalton Schultz was. There's always one. There's always one each year that's taken outside top 12.
And if you think about it, the thing that helps whoever usually wins the league is the person who gets the best value at the most positions.
Mark Andrews.
The one year I won the league, I got Todd Gurley in the 3rd round, and he was the RB1. And I ain't sniffed a championship since.
I won the league, I got Jamar in the 6th.
Yeah.
And you stole Justin Jefferson and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, that's true. You also
Mark Andrews too, didn't you?
Yeah. Thank goodness I got Mark Andrews off of you, or else you would have stomped the league even harder.
I said after week 3, you could probably find in the chat. I said, wow, it's week 3 of the season and the league is over. Jasani's already won. And Matthew was like, no, man, my team's good. I was like, Matthew, if you think your team's competing with this, you're sniffing your own farts, brother.
Matthew swears he always has he drafts the best team but never trades.
My team was good last year. I don't care what anybody says. I just didn't make the playoffs because I was unlucky. All right. We got our top 12 list. Next week, I think we're going to start cracking in on the wide receivers. It feels like that is the position that is the most solidified now as of right now.
That's going to be hard, man.
Oh, yeah.
I think the hardest are going to be running backs.
All I'm going to tell y'all is that right now, Javonte is going to be my number 3 running back. Might even crack number 2 if I'm being honest.
You don't know this guy from Melvin yet, man.
They're not Melvin.
I'm praying they bring back Melvin.
Team won't do, they will do.
Bro, I'm sitting here.
Listen, why would we want our young running back to take that many hits when we can run Melvin to the 3rd?
Oh, hey, I'll take that for dynasty. Let Melvin take 30 carries for the first 5 weeks and see how his body feels, and then you can feed Javonte for the rest of his life.
You trying to get Melvin, bro?
Dude, I mean, the way I look at it is like I started Javonte last year. If the offense was better with Russ, he could split carries again, and he would still be like my RB2 easily like starting, like not the RB2, but like my RB2 on my team.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I feel about him. If he's the workhorse, oh, the sky's the limit.
Bro, I remember I got him with the 4th overall rookie pick. I thought everyone was sleeping on him.
Might
I
be the
got him
best
after
running back
you took ETN, bro. You took ETN before Javante, and I thought you were crazy.
No. I took ETN at 5.
Did I take him at 4? No, I did not have a better pick than you. I had the 6th pick. I did not beat you.
Oh, so I took ETN at 4.
I think I took Javante at 5.
Did Colin take Smitty at 6?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And now I have all 3 of them.
You somehow traded for 3 first-round picks.
And I got 2 first-round picks in the draft. Hey, Brandon, let me get that pick, brother. Well, all right.
I got something in the works right now.
So next week we'll dive into wide receivers. That'll be a very good show. I think it'll be an LSU cat at 1. I don't know which one.
Jamar number 1, JJ number 2.
I'd be Justin Jefferson at 1.
Oh, Jamar.
I wouldn't just because of his QB.
No, dude. Okay, this is my only thought. They got the Rams OC. So if Justin Jefferson plays the Cooper Kupp role,
Cooper Kupp.
Imagine Black Cooper Kupp.
It's Kirk Matthew Stafford though.
He just as good.
I hear teams that I keep hearing about teams trading for Kirk like he might be their Matthew Stafford, and I'm like,
hey man, if Kirk went on the Steelers, that wouldn't be the worst thing.
Put Kirk on the Colts, and that team makes the playoffs easy.
Yeah, but they don't win shit after
the play. They lose the first round. You know, Kirk not about that clutch life.
Kirk ain't dragging them to the Super Bowl, bro.
But yeah, so next week we'll do wide receivers. The draft is in next month. I would say we could probably do wide receivers and then maybe dive into some draft prospects and then finish it off with some running backs. Or we can do draft prospects and then once the draft's over, come up with our wide receivers and running backs because I'm sure some of those guys will for sure be cracking.
When does free agency and stuff end? Because we could talk about like a lot of the free agency stuff next week too.
That's what we should do next week. Next week we'll be covering free agency moves for sure.
Okay.
Free agency moves and drafts prospects. We probably just try to wait for the wide receiver running back part till a little bit later. So yeah. We'll be talking about free agency moves, impacts.
Cool.
See who moves up and down. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Have fun. Win your fantasy league. Dominate the draft. Just like we do. Simple.
3-time winners over here.